Welcome to my channel, where we discuss financial and spiritual strategies, and let's have a little bit of humor. So if you enjoy this conversation, please like and subscribe.
Meeting with President Zelensky the day before the invasion, and then meeting with him again on the day of the invasion.
Did you hear that? Sean Penn, Hollywood actor, met with President Zelensky of the Ukraine one day before the invasion and one day after he met with him again. What could that be about? Number one, did you know that Sean Penn was that powerful that he'd be meeting with the head of state that the day of an anticipated invasion? And two, how did he happen to be in the Ukraine? Somebody must have given him notice of the Ukrainian invasion. And yes, there were plenty of people that appeared to know. Alex Jones announced in October 2021 there was going to be an invasion or some sort of conflict in the Ukraine in February of 2022, and then several people had gone to a meeting in January of 2022 where the CIA had let them know that there was going to be an invasion, a limited invasion of Russia in February of 2022. With all this planning and anticipation, I don't think we, the public, are being given the full story of what this invasion actually means. Just based on my historical understanding, normally when somebody visits a head of state before a war, they are taking him a message. So what was the message that Sean Penn was taking to President Zelensky the night or the eve before the invasion? And then what was the message that they were discussing the day after? So there must have been an additional message given to President Zelensky the day after the invasion started. And I want all of you to please write below. Tell me what you think Sean Penn could have been transmitting to the president of the Ukraine on the eve of a Russian invasion. Sean Penn, Hollywood actor, is an interesting character. He always shows up just on the eve and during a conflict, and appears to bring in certain workers and organizations and NGOs that quickly take advantage of the chaos of an invasion and then leave and then depart quickly, leaving a country in complete shambles. For example, Sean Penn became very prominent during the Haiti invasion, after which we know organ harvesting, child sex trafficking occurred, and the country was left in total shambles, despite the fact there were millions of dollars donated by the American public to implement infrastructure and to rebuild this country. The scandal was even the Red Cross, who had accumulated millions of dollars in donation, was revealed to have built only 3 houses. And these Hollywood stars, these celebrities who bandy around these projects of countries that are in chaos, just leave a country and are shameless about not being accountable for all the millions they accumulated and then leaving the country worse off than when they found it. So that's a little bit of Sean Penn's history. He also did this in Libya. We know that Libya, before the invasion of the U.S., was one of the most progressive Middle Eastern countries where students went to college for free, where home loans were interest-free, where the government fully supported the infrastructure and took care of its people. Afterwards, now, it is a huge slave market, completely in shambles. And yes, just like Where is Waldo during a war, Sean Penn is always popping up, and he popped up before Libya, claiming that Libya was a country that were filled with freedom fighters, and then Sean Penn as quickly left. The country descended into pure hellish conflict. So you tell me, based on the history of Sean Penn, what sort of message could Sean Penn be giving President Zelensky on the eve and on the day of the Russian invasion? Let's listen to Sean Penn himself, but I want you to pay close attention when Sean Penn makes a veiled threat. I don't think it's a threat. Why don't we look at it as an investment prediction? I believe it was one of Obama's advisors who said, never let a good crisis go to waste as far as making money. But I think this is more of a pre-planned crisis. You can say here is never let a planned crisis go to waste without having an investment strategy. Yes, the investors are on the eve waiting for something for Sean to give a message to President Zelensky, perhaps do something in the future that will make all of them money. Just my layperson's guess for his investors. Refugee problem. As you will hear Sean Penn predict, as he says there's going to be an extended resistance after Putin finally solidifies his dominance in Ukraine. There's going to be, yes, another ISIS and Al-Qaeda refugee thing going on. Oh my. Same story, different decade. Same story, different country. But let's not stop here. Sean Penn is about ready to give his Oscar-winning performance.
I don't know if he knew that he was born for this, but it was clear I was in the presence of something, and again, I think reflected of so many Ukrainians, that was new to the modern world in terms of courage and dignity.
Wow, high praise for an ex-actor, ex-comedian, and ex-Dancing with the Stars celebrity.
And love that comes out of the man, and the way he has unified that country. And I think Mr. Putin certainly added to paving the way to that.
Now that is a very strange way of putting Mr. Putin's contribution to quote-unquote paving the way to unifying the country. What does that mean? Well, I think it means that Mr. Putin is on the side of the globalists and his mentor, Klaus Schwab, World Economic Forum, who was bragging about the fact that President Putin was a young economic forum leader.
Even Vladimir Putin and so on, they all have been young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. Mm-hmm.
A mover and shaker on behalf of the training mentorship of the World Economic Forum. They're all on the same side.
Yeah, there's no question in my mind that this is not going to end soon no matter what, because you will have a country of extraordinary insurgencies if Putin is successful in this.
He's calling it extraordinary insurgencies. Well, we know that they have the neo-Nazi guard already in place to start terrorizing the general populace. So I think this is the prediction. There's going to be a couple of decades long where Ukraine is the new Afghanistan, the new war-torn, conflict-ridden country in which the global investment powers that be are going to make tons of money off the continual and perpetual human suffering of this global economy based on war, blood, and money. Also, I think it signals a total shift in power politics. The West is no longer going to be the dominant military force invading countries and extracting their resources. This marks a complete historical shift to China and Russia now being the military powers that are going to take over the role of invading countries, extracting their resources for the World Economic Forum and their cronies, and having the continual spigot of pump and dump, oil, no oil, too much oil, anyway, enslaving the world, but it's going to be now run from the East. China and Russia, which heretofore did not involve themselves in intervening in other countries, are now set to be the world dominant powers. So, if you're an investment strategist, guess this is a signal that all speed ahead in your investments in China and Russia, because they're going to back their investments. As we know, Evergrande's bond default is now being repaid through this war of intervention in a partnership between China and Russia. And Western Bain Capitals and Mr. Kerry and Mr. McCain and Lindsey Graham, they're out. No longer are they going to be the powers that be, but it's going to be Mr. Putin and President Xi. Just my prediction based on evaluating the evidence that I have at hand.
There's no sign that Mr. Putin is looking for an off-ramp.
But you wonder how Sean Penn knows there's going to be this grave resistance, except for maybe his investors will be funding the resistance just to keep the organ harvesting, the slave trade, and the sex trafficking profitable for everyone in the region. But why spend all our time on the Ukraine? Let's go down memory lane and have Sean Penn perform some of his most stellar performances while he assisted the Haitian people.
Well, in 2 years, they've gotten to the point where they were able to, against a lot of odds, select a leadership of the people. I think they have a decisive president. There's a kind of miracle that's been pulled off.
Transactions take place here at the entrance to the bridge in the Haitian town of Wanamint. To transport a child illegally from here to a Dominican city costs an average of $80, according to some traffickers and UNICEF. While the children wait, some unaware of what's happening, the Haitian and Dominican hustlers negotiate a price.
Lo que hago es que lo cargo, yo pido mi precio y ellos me lo venden. Pero hay personas que lo que hacen es que lo estafan, que lo roban.
Oh, and let's not forget Sean Penn's brilliant performance about the Libyan people.
The danger in Libya, of course, is that you've got, a truly horrible man with maybe $20 billion in cash.
Do you think that we're beginning to...
friend does, yeah.
The cell phones are really spotty here. It's a real problem.
Yeah, well, maybe.
I just admire their courage. And the courage to say we want freedom. You know, it's an extraordinary thing. An enormous price has been paid, but I think that there's no question but that they'll follow it through.
But people trafficking networks in Libya continue to flourish because of government chaos as rival groups battle for power. These Ivorians, repatriated to the Ivory Coast from Libya, say they risk being sold into slavery.
They sell Africans over there. In Libya, they sell men. Even 15-year-old Libyans are there in a car, they're armed. They'll come and kidnap you, and they'll sell you for $70 to $150. And then others will resell you.
As soon as you arrive in Libya, the first thing that happens is that you are taken away and sold. Our black brothers from West Africa, wherever you are from, a Malian, a Senegalese, or any other nationality from the West, even an Ivorian, you are sold. And for what? $700.